Hey, everybody. Thanks for joining us here today. I'm Zach Drew.
I'm Andrew Bellers.
Now, we're going to be continuing our talk on legalizing psychedelics. That's going to be the next push that we see in America, I believe, in the next decade or so. I really want to encourage you to go and watch our last show. We're going to be building off of that content. It was called DMT, Legalizing Weed, and the Great Deception. Okay, you're gonna want to watch that. Okay. So here's the thing, though. I do want, before we get into it, I want to ask you to please get involved here at the ministry. This was like the next phase of everything. Mm-hmm. Filming, just having an extra beautiful set in this office, and just having our own camera, lights, tripod, teleprompter, microphones. How cool are these microphones, by the way? These old school microphones. I'm in love with these things. Yeah, they are cool. Well, listen, this is literally just the first phase. We have massive dreams here at this ministry. It all goes back to a vision that the Lord gave me whenever I was 17 years old. And he told me to go into the world of Christian media for Jesus. When I was 17, I knew nobody at all in the Christian world. And't been doing it ever since. Mm-hmm. And I'm telling you right now that what the Lord placed inside of me about what it's going to do one day, that how he is going to move through this ministry to the world is literally going to be incredible. Please pray about standing with us. Okay, so today we are going to be continuing our talk about the most powerful psychedelic known to man, which is called DMT. Otherwise known as ayahuasca, otherwise sometimes called the spirit molecule. Watch our last show, DMT, Legalizing Weed, and the Great Deception. By way of review, the use of ayahuasca, this insane psychedelic, was taught by fallen angels and their offspring. These beings, they taught forbidden knowledge and secrets of the universe to humans. Now, what's interesting is this. This is what's really kind of rocking me right now.
Okay.
Is that the use of ayahuasca was rampant in the days of Noah. The secret universe, these massive giants, everybody worshiping them, the craziest stuff that you can imagine going on on the earth right before Noah's flood, the flood of Noah. You can read about the sons of God and them coming down and impregnating natural women and creating this insane off-breed of half human and half something else breeds, these massive giants, the men of renown, these beings that were essentially worshipped by mankind in this day. It was these beings that taught the use of this crazy psychedelic. And we are seeing that this ancient psychedelic is becoming mainstream again. And I am reminded of what Jesus said. He said, as it was in the days of Noah, what the time was like, what the world was like in the days of Noah, as it was in the days of Noah, so it will be again in the coming of the Son of Man. Seeing what it was like in the days of Noah, that's what the world will be like again whenever I come back. And think about this ancient psychedelic drug is having a massive surge in America and throughout the world.
Yeah, and it's just one thing. I mean, talking about it's going to be like it was in the days of Noah. I mean, one of the first things that comes to mind is just the corruption in the hearts of men, which of course is getting worse and worse. But I mean, if you even look at people in that day lived hundreds of years, and you look at science and how they're trying to figure out the cure to aging, basically. I mean, the whole abomination of the fallen angels mixing with human women. It's just part of why that was so evil. God is made man is made in God's image, and it was the perversion of God's image. And we're seeing that today with technology and trying to merge technology with human beings. We're seeing it in genetic modification. I mean, everything, literally, I think everything that you see in those times, we're going to see again.
Absolutely. I'm reminded, so one of my friends, Rabbi Jonathan Kahn, he wrote a famous book that many of you know called The Harbinger. And he often referred to it kind of like an ancient mystery being replayed point by point again in modern times. So it's literally an ancient mystery, just simply unfolding the exact same way in modern times. And the ultimate end of this was, well, it was judgment upon America, which I do believe still is going to come in some form or fashion. I absolutely believe that. Now, this is kind of what I view the lens of ayahuasca through. This is an ancient psychedelic that was used thousands and thousands of years ago, and it's becoming mainstream again. And I believe it is a sign of the time, because this is what was going on in the days of Noah. Millions of people in America are using DMT. I actually have an article here. This is from ultraculture.org. Millions of Americans are now smoking DMT, and the number is growing. Now I'm going to go down here. Listen to this, because I had said before, Andrew, I said tens of thousands, maybe even hundreds of thousands of people are using DMT,
which seemed reasonable.
Yeah, in America alone. Listen to this. The global survey's findings are supported by numbers from another survey administered by the U.S. government, the National Survey on Drug Use and Health. That sampling found that the number of people in the United States who have used DMT in some form have been up almost every single year since 2006. What happened in 2006? Why is it up every year since 2006? That's interesting. So from an estimate in 2006, 688,000 people took DMT in America. Now, unfortunately, this study just goes to 2012, and the number had more than doubled in 6 years. In 2012, 1.4 million people took DMT in America. So I believe it is absolutely safe to say that millions of people in America are using DMT right now. Now remember, like I said, go and watch our last shows on DMT. This is not like another psychedelic. This isn't just like, someone takes, LSD or mushrooms, and they're still in this reality, and they're literally just tripping on what's around them. No. DMT actually takes you into the spirit realm, and people are talking to fallen angels. They are talking to these spirit entities. And let me tell you right now that it's like, okay, so millions of people are taking DMT, which is, remember, that's the modern form of ayahuasca. Okay, well, millions of people are getting drunk. Millions of people, are smoking pot or having sex. People do what people,
his voice.
People do what, pleases them.
Yeah.
Right? So it's like, well, of course, Zach, millions of people are going to smoke DMT because they love it. No, it's actually not like that. DMT is not a recreational thing. It's not something that people do because they enjoy. It is literally something, and people say, listen, obviously, okay, I have to say this every time, because we're talking in these last few shows a lot about drugs. This is completely demonic.
Yeah.
Never try this. This is horrific. You are opening up yourself. Listen, I'm not saying that if you take cocaine or Adderall or meth or whatever these other drugs are, those are bad. And those could open you up to oppression or possession. But all of those drugs are completely different than psychedelics. Okay? They're all bad. They're not good. Okay? But a lot of times we just view all drugs under the same umbrella when they're not. You have all these other drugs, and then you have psychedelics. Psychedelics are literally the telephone number to the devil. I mean, like, they are they are.
It's a good way of putting it.
What?
It's a good way of putting it.
They enter you right into the spirit realm. Psychedelics. Yeah. So what I'm saying is this: these millions of people are not taking DMT for recreational purposes. They are taking DMT literally to have a cleansing of the mind, to have a new way to filter the entire universe and God, because they talk to these fallen angels, and then ultimately, if they have a breakthrough moment, they talk to what they refer to as God himself, or rather, I should say, herself, because most time this God appears as a woman.
And that's the most important point, is that it is a spiritual experience, and that is what they're seeking when they take this drug. And it's becoming incredibly popular. I mean, celebrities like Mike Tyson and Joe Rogan and Lindsay Lohan all are very open about taking this drug. And always the testimony is that it changed their life. It changed their perspective. They will never see life the same way again. And that's what people are seeking when they take this drug. They're seeking a life-changing experience.
And, it fills them with love and peace, and they come into grips of their own existence. And, and here's the thing, millions of people are smoking it. Don't wonder anymore why there's a massive surge of new age, especially among millennials. I believe that this can be attributed to millions of them taking DMT, which is connected. And that's what I want to talk about next. We talk a lot about technology on this show. And I believe the DMT is connected to it. I believe everything we've been discussing on these last several shows, DMT is connected to it. I believe everything we've discussed concerning DMT is connected to the future of technology, and it also is connected to this New Age movement. I know New Age is not New Age; it's been around for thousands of years, but it is surging right now. I believe DMT is connected to the great deception of the end days. Now, not saying that they're going to put ayahuasca in the water and make us all trip, okay? But it will be used in some capacity to get people ready for something. Whether you like them or don't, I do think it's very interesting. And there was some proof behind this that Alex Jones was talking about a few weeks ago, actually, on Joe Rogan's podcast. It had 11, 12 million views. That there is some type of government site where government officials are making interdimensional deals with aliens. Okay, so this government site, people are taking, government officials tripping on DMT, making intergalactic deals with aliens. Okay, all right, let's filter this through a Christian lens. We know that DMT does open you up, and people are talking to fallen angels. So what they deem as aliens are fallen angels, and these intergalactic deals are probably a part of some type of great deception, if this is accurate. We also talked about how tech titans, the tech elite, the Silicon Valley, gorillas, the big top guys, okay? They're communicating with fallen angels, through DMT, and the angels are telling them what technology to build up the future. This is all the next step.
Yeah, and that's the connection. I believe that's the main connection. We're gonna be watching another clip from Graham Hancock. And we watched a clip from him on last week's show, right? And there's something really interesting that he says in this TED Talk. And he said that DMT, if we don't legalize it or whatever, if we push it off and say it's some evil thing, then we might be neglecting the next step in our human evolution. And I think
think about that. DMT is the next step in human evolution, is what this thought leader believes, and many others believe.
Such an interesting thought. I mean, why? And that's really, I think, what the big push is in AI, in merging, creating these interfaces, these brain technology interfaces, so that we can enhance the human IQ. The whole goal, they're pushing towards the next evolution in the human. And it really is just this perversion. Again, it's this perversion of the image of God, and it's exalting human wisdom. And I really think that that's one of the big links between what we're talking about with DMT and what we've been talking about with technology.
That's right. Matthew 24:24 says this: "For false messiahs and false prophets will appear and perform great signs and wonders to deceive, if possible, even the elect. Something more deceptive than the world has ever seen ever is going to come upon the earth in the end days." Matthew 24, that entire chapter is an end day chapter of what the world will look like before Christ returns. That there are these prophets, these messiah figures that are literally so convincing that even the elect, that's you and I. I mean, if you have Jesus within you, if you are a Christian, if Jesus is your Lord and Master, that is you. You are that elect. What in the world? If someone that comes upon the earth and they're saying I'm the Messiah, I'm like, bro, you're crazy. Like, you're insane. Like, that's not gonna deceive any of us. What is going to happen on the earth that could even possibly deceive the elect, if it were possible? What can we expect next? This is what we can expect next. The pitch for the legalization of psychedelics. We're going to play a quick video for you, and then we're going to come back and break this down, why we believe this is a reality that we're going to experience here in the next few years. This is a banned TED Talk. It's from Graham Hancock, who's a famous English author and journalist. This TED Talk has been banned, but it has been recorded by other YouTubers, and we've pulled it, so that's why the clarity of this video is not incredible. Man, listen to what he has to say. He is an advocate for sovereignty over consciousness, for the use of DMT. But I'm not going to say anything more, and I think you're going to be shocked by what he says. Go ahead and play this video.
Ayahuasca has been fantastically successful in getting people off harmful addictions to hard drugs such as heroin and cocaine. Jacques Mabit at the Taquihuasi Clinic in Peru brings heroin and cocaine addicts out there for a month, gives them 12 ayahuasca sessions, and they have encounters with Mother Ayahuasca during those sessions that lead them not to wish to take heroin or cocaine anymore, and more than half leave completely free of their addiction, never return to it, and don't even have withdrawal symptoms. And the same incredible healing work was being done in Canada by Dr. Gabor Mate until the Canadian government intervened and stopped his healing practice on the grounds that ayahuasca itself was an illegal drug. Now, I have some personal experience of this. I have not been addicted to heroin or cocaine, but I had a 24-year non-stop cannabis habit. And this started off smoking the herb and laterally vaporizing it, but the basic truth is that for 24 years, I was pretty much permanently stoned. And I enjoyed being stoned. And I felt that it helped me with my work as a writer, and perhaps at some point it did. But when I first encountered ayahuasca, I'd already been smoking cannabis for 16 years, and almost immediately, ayahuasca started giving me messages that this was no longer serving me, that it was leading me to behave in negative and unhelpful ways towards others. And of course, I ignored those messages for years and years and went back to being stoned 16 hours a day. But that negative behavior that ayahuasca was pointing up did actually get worse and worse. I don't want to put down cannabis, and I believe it's the sovereign right of every adult to choose to smoke cannabis if they wish to do so. But I think I was overusing it. I think I was abusing it, not using it responsibly. And I became more and more paranoid, jealous, possessive, suspicious. I was subject to irrational rages. I often made the life of my beloved partner, Santha, a misery. And when I went down for my regular encounter with ayahuasca in October 2011, I was given the most unbelievable kicking by Mother Ayahuasca. And I was put through an ordeal. It was a kind of life review. And it's not an accident that ayahuasca is the vine of the dead. I was shown my death. And I was shown that if I came to death and what awaits us after death, without having corrected the mistakes that I was making in my life, that it would be a very bad thing for me. And actually, Mother Ayahuasca literally took me to hell. And that hell was a little like this hell painted by Hieronymus Bosch, a truly terrible place, and a little like the place that the ancient Egyptians called the judgment hall of Osiris, where our souls are weighed in the scales in the presence of the gods against the feather of truth, of justice, of cosmic harmony. And I was shown that the path I was walking, my abuse of cannabis and the behavior associated with it, was going to lead me to be found wanting in the judgment, and that I might face annihilation in the world beyond death. So perhaps not surprising that when I came back to England later in October 2011, I gave up cannabis, and I've never smoked it again since then. And actually, and again, I'm speaking only personally with no comment on others' use of cannabis, it's as though a monkey has been lifted off my back. I'm liberated in incredible ways. Far from my creativity being inhibited, I find myself writing much more productively, much more creatively, much more focused, and much more efficiently as well. And I've begun to be able to address those negative aspects of my behavior, which cannabis had revealed, and hopefully to make myself slowly, it's a long progress, into a more nurturing, more loving, more positive person. And this whole transformation, it really has been a personal transformation for me, was made possible by this encounter with death that Mother Ayahuasca gave me.
What horrific deception. I mean, he's essentially telling his testimony. I mean, did you kind of feel that?
Yeah.
I mean, it was like, I honestly felt like I was like at a church service, and there's this guy on stage, and he's telling his testimony of being something prior, and then coming to the saving knowledge of Jesus, and being able to throw down his baggage and throw down his life of sin, and come before the cross and accept it for a new way of life. And his life looks so much different, so much more positive, so much better in all regards. I felt like I was at a demonic church service.
He was visually emotional about it. This was clearly very, very personal.
And how Mother Ayahuasca saved him and got him on the right path. This is a great delusion. Oh, Zach, this will never happen. They can't legalize psychedelics. Oh, a very mild form of psychedelics right now that many people don't know what's actually a mild form of psychedelics is weed. How will they legalize this? How?
Well, I think they'll use the weed model essentially.
The weed model.
It's like how do we take psychedelics, which are not very accepted in the mainstream, and how do we inject them into the mainstream and make them accepted by the masses? And it's like, well, we've already done this before. We did this with weed. Weed was very not accepted in the mainstream. And the first thing that we did is we validated it in the scientific community. And we said it was this miracle herb, and it helps with cancer symptoms, and it helps with all of this stuff. And once they had it accepted in the scientific community, then they could open it up to the masses. And that's exactly what has happened.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so medical use of marijuana is a whole nother story, because I haven't even looked into it enough to form think about it like this. Whenever you have a horrific surgery, the doctor does prescribe you opioids for pain. Opioids are incredibly horrific. So there is a case to be made that for medically, I don't know. It's just such a scary road to go down, because it is a psychedelic. Can it be used for medical? We're not even here to discuss that right now.
Right.
This is recreational. And DMT is on that same path. I believe ayahuasca and DMT, it'll be a part of the end times deception, but it'll be, like you said, the weed model.
Yeah.
It'll help with anxiety. It'll help with depression.
Yeah. I have a number of articles here that say exactly that.
Yeah, get into those articles.
Sure.
Yeah.
Here's a new study: microdosing DMT reduces depression and anxiety. So it says new research shows
that's
that.
That's futurism. I mean, that's
yeah.
legit.
I mean, this is a legitimate source. This is new research shows that microdosing DMT. So this is how they justify it: taking doses of the drug that are too low to cause hallucinations could indeed reduce symptoms of depression and anxiety, according to The Atlantic. And though data is still scarce, the work could pave the way to new mental health treatments. It says David Olson, a chemist and neuroscientist at the University of California at Davis, thinks his team's study is important because it provides some of the first evidence that there are benefits to taking psychedelic drugs below a dosage threshold that would cause you to, trip. And he said there's that saying, and I thought this was an interesting quote. He said there's that saying that the difference between medicine and a poison is the dose. And that's exactly the kind of mindset that they use for marijuana, for cannabis. Here's another article. It says short-acting psychedelic offers promising new treatment pathway for depression and anxiety.
So the pitch for depression and anxiety.
The same pitch.
Here's the next line.
It says, a new survey in the antidepressant qualities of a short-acting psychedelic has reported extraordinarily positive improvements in well-being. The research led by a team from Johns Hopkins University One of the biggest research institutes in the country.
It's actually the biggest.
The biggest.
So, for example, out of all universities, 900 something universities, Johns Hopkins, 909, I think is universities. Johns Hopkins University, University in the hospital. They spent in 2017. It's not out for 2018 yet. Obviously, we're just a few months into 2019. They spent $2.5 billion on research and development. This very, medical, really driven university spent $2.5 billion. Did you get this though? $2.1 billion of that came from the government. So basically, I feel like, hey, you're getting $2.1 billion for research and development. $2.5 billion is, spent from Johns Hopkins University. You're going to be researching the things the government tells you to be researching.
Yeah.
That's Uncle Sam's money. And listen, if Uncle Sam is giving you that kind of money, you're going to be doing exactly what Uncle Sam tells you to be doing with that money. And they're researching DMT and have people tripping out on DMT and talking about the benefits of it.
Yeah. Here's just a couple more articles. Psychedelic Indiana Jones drug expert claims LSD, mushrooms, and MDMA to be made legal. It's a scientist by the name David Luke, a senior lecturer in psychology at the University of Greenwich, and he says that it could be in the next 10 or 20 years that we see these psychedelic drugs legalized. I thought this article was interesting. It's called First Marijuana Are Magic Mushrooms Next? It says in Oregon and Denver, where marijuana is legal for recreational use, activists are now pushing toward a psychedelic frontier. It says magic mushrooms. And basically they're saying, hey, it worked with weed. Why can't we do it with psychedelics? And that's exactly what we're saying. That is the push. And they're just making it very clear. It worked with weed. Why can't we do it with psychedelics?
And then the last article, just the headline, Blindness Miracle Cure. Experts in huge breakthrough with God molecule psychedelic drug known as DMT. All these things are happening right now, and we are here to educate you, to warn you, to be watchmen on the wall of what is coming. But what is far more superior than the knowledge of what is coming is where you are going after you die. And I just want to end today's show by saying I hope you enjoyed today's show. But this show means nothing compared to your salvation. If you don't know Jesus as your Lord and Savior, if you haven't come before the cross and repented and turned from your sins, now is the time to do it. Do it today. Accept Jesus as your Lord and personal Savior. Confess with your mouth and believe in your heart that Jesus is Lord and that He was raised again on that third day. And because He was raised again, you can raise again as well whenever you die, because you can have the Lord's Spirit, His Holy Spirit living within you. Just make sure your heart is right before God today. That's gonna have to be it for our program today. We're actually a little over, and we will see you next week.